I am Charles Carroll of Carrollton, the wealthiest of the signers and the last to survive. When I took up the Patriot cause, I did so knowing I had more to lose than most. My land, my fortune, my family's name, everything stood in jeopardy. But liberty, once awakened, demands no half measures. As the only Catholic to sign the Declaration, I knew both persecution and principle. I signed it as Charles Carroll of Carrollton to let it be known who I was and that I fully supported this cause. No ambiguity. I risked it all, not for reward, but for a free republic. The question is not what I gave, but what will you?
If you've ever glanced at our glorious Declaration of Independence for more than a moment, you've no doubt seen my name. I made certain King George did not miss John Hancock. Born in Massachusetts, I was raised among wealth, but I wagered all of it on the cause of liberty. When the king taxed us without our say, I refused to bow. They called me a smuggler. I called it resistance. As president of the Continental Congress, it was my duty and my honor to be the first to sign the Declaration of Independence. And I signed big, so there'd be no mistake. Some say they may have no in my head. I gave them every reason to raise it. I said, there, John Bull can read my name without spectacles, and may now double his reward from my head. I believed if liberty was worth fighting for, it was worth risking everything. I put my fortune to use on behalf of the cause, giving what I had to help birth this republic. That signature of mine, it made history. Even now people say, put your John Hancock here. Imagine that, a name turned symbol. Later, I became the first elected governor of Massachusetts under our state's new constitution. But no title meant more than that moment in Philadelphia, when we pledged our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor, and we meant every word. Liberty is not given, it is claimed and kept. Let my signature serve as a symbol to inspire you to add your own name to the cause of liberty.
Well, there you go. Happy 4th indeed. We are absolutely finishing off the weekend with a banger. Hello, Hangin'. Hello, Vixen. Ted, I see you. Froze, Chris, good to see you, babe. D-Rock, I see Uncommon Belief, and so many other friends in here. We will catch them along the way. I promise you, I'm working out new things for the chat, trying to get the best view. Sometimes Rumble chats don't show up. Don't ask me why. It's whether it's emojis. I don't know. I can't figure it out. We're going to sort it out along the way. But tonight we are finishing a wonderful, wonderful Independence weekend. I hope you had a good one. My prayers absolutely go out to everybody in Texas that is still searching for missing loved ones, for people who are coming out of damage and trauma and just a terrible, terrible storm. God bless each and every one of them. Thank you to everybody, the first responders, boots on the ground, people doing search and rescue. We pray for you all, and we love you. Our hearts go out to you. And all the light workers in here send good energy and love your way. So if you are suffering tonight, we are, with you in the hopes for the best outcome from this terrible disaster. And we've seen so many of those. So that's why it's always good to look back on the good things that we have, on the, blessings that we've had, on the miracles that we've witnessed. And I think it's so easy to overlook those miracles, to overlook those hellos from loved ones from the other side, the little messages we get, the help from our spirit guides, the help from spirit, period. I told you last week, I sat down and I was looking for a necklace that meant so much to me. It had the picture of Mr. Dickens on it. On the back of it, it said, "Love is eternal." I got it 2 months after his passing for Christmas from my dear loved one, my son, and it meant the world to me. We tend to do that with put so much thought and and love into to different objects, and then they're taken away and we think, man, that's terrible. And sometimes we have to say goodbye, and then sometimes we find them. So I literally sat on the bed and said to my spirit guides, look guys, I try to help out when I can. When you guys call me, I'm there. I've gone into the dark cellars, I've gone into the hot attics, I've done all this crazy stuff. I want that necklace back. I know you have the ability to apport that sucker from wherever it is, no questions asked. I need it back. Can you do that for me, please? And I said, I expect this to happen. And I went to work. The next day, I'm looking in a laundry basket that I had looked in 3 times. There she was, folks. I guarantee the neighbors thought I found a spider or something, the man screaming I did. So again, was it a coincidence? I guess it all depends on how you choose to look at it, but these are the little, the little miracles, the little things that I think Spirit does in our life just to get us through our journey. And the other gift we get is friends, people that you connect with immediately, that energy, that chemistry, that vibe, that frequency. And then you find out that they like the same things you like, and they're in it for the same reasons, and they don't care about this or any of this crazy madness out here, which is fun too. It's always fun to take all that in, but when it gets really right down to it, it's the heart and why you're doing it, and what you're doing it for, and what you're getting out of it, and what you do with it. And when you're talking about the paranormal and supernatural, if you can get with a group of people that have the same intent you do, and you can walk into a place that's history is still a mystery, so to speak, and you can help unravel that as a group, as a team, that's magic. It's the same as getting on the stage with a band and playing a wonderful tune, or going into a dark cellar and crossing over some spirits that have been banging around in the shadows for decades. And tonight I have 2 of those people with me. I am blessed to have as friends Mr. James Wyrick, I like to call him Jim, and Mr. Mike Simpson. And I have done those things with these gentlemen, and I can assure you we have stories. So let's welcome them in, both, I believe, tonight from the wonderful Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Is that correct? Are you guys ready? Welcome. Please welcome my friends. Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Happy 4th.
There you go.
Great
Happy
to see you,
4th.
Cisco. Love the hat.
Honey.
Love the opening of the show.
Oh, wow. Right. I mean, I'm just so into this weekend. I'm just loving every bit. Hi, Jim. How you doing, sweetie?
We're good, hon. We're good.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, I could just squeeze you both. I just love you all so much. So welcome in. Hello to the chat. Just throw up the bacon, guys, because there's nothing but love here tonight. This is great. What a way to end this weekend. I mean, we have done this in years past, and we've talked about the wonderful things of Gettysburg and all the ghosts there, and then we started getting into Waynesboro and how wonderful Waynesboro, Pennsylvania is, and the history there. And you're surrounded, for those who don't know, there's Harper's Valley right there. Harper's Valley, I don't know why I say Harper's Valley PTA is on my mind tonight, I think. And I'm just going to play in my head all night now. And then you've got the Antietam, one of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War, and all the little skirmishes around. So welcome in. The stage is yours. You guys have been on adventure. Did you have an adventure this weekend? Have you been out poking around in the dirt, and the caves, and the rocks, and the wonderment?
Well, tell them about when we were up at the square.
I'm so excited.
Gettysburg.
All right. Well, first of all, hi to all the viewers in the chat, and a quick shout out. He may or may not be watching, to my son, Brandon, back in Columbus, Ohio. Love and miss you, buddy.
Hello, Brandon. Wonderful. Now, would he come in under his name, or does he have a pseudonym?
He would come under Brandon, but if I told him,
okay.
But
Yeah, so we're on
It is
YouTube.
Dana,
You know,
so-
if you're listening and you're not seeing anything, if you're on one of the other streams, we are streaming live on Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube. So there's lots of ways to to get into. And afterwards, after the show, if you guys want to follow me over to Rumble, I found a wonderful Gettysburg Ghost with our friend Mark Nesbitt, and some other things. He's talking about the fluid and I won't give it away, that he found in the cabin. You know the story, and some others. So if you guys want to follow me over Rumble after the show, we have a little finish off finale for the weekend, about 20 minutes of that. But they won't let me show it on YouTube. So there you go.
I see in
And
comments one of our Hoover
Dana,
House regulars, Dana, is on.
wonderful.
So
Welcome in, Dana. Good to. Oh gosh,
when
Dana, I'm coming, honey.
we just with her the other night, right?
I'm telling you, I've been saying it for 3 years now. I'm coming. We like to take our time. You make plans, and God says, sure you are. From medical to this and that, the other thing. But we're coming now. Listen, Mike, do you want to say? Have you permanently? Are you there now? Are you now a resident, or are you going back and forth?
Well, I officially this Monday moved in currently with Jim and Yvonne here in Chambersburg. So I am here and can't wait to see you. Hopefully you guys are coming for the bash.
Oh, we're trying. Well, you
Okay.
know us. We're last minute, get in the car and go, or something happens and we can't, and we come out right after, or something along those lines. But look, that's our bullseye. And between houses dropping, and they shot up like crazy, went up to 70-80%, and then they dropped a little and they went back up. Now they're dropping again. So we're watching it, we're putting in, we're doing all the things. So we're coming, God willing. When it's the right time, I guess we'll be there. But that's our bullseye, kiddo, because we want to be around this for the same reasons when I was introducing you. It's very, in our time, it's very hard to get with a group of people that have this similar intent. And the results are mind-boggling, are they not? All the times we've gotten together and told these mind-blowing things, people think we're out of our absolute minds. But this stuff happens, folks, does it not?
Absolutely.
And these two gentlemen have been in the dark shadows with me, and I with them, and we have seen things that I promise you we could tell you. And if the men in the white coats and the van still came around, we'd probably be in the queue to get whisked off. But I promise you it happened. And it's like this. They know, they connect in, and oh God. I'm going to hush up. Just tell us what you've been doing. Tell us what you've been doing. And I'm so glad you're there, baby. I'm so glad you're there.
Thank
you.
I will share a story. This is the week of getting settled in and doing things. But Jim has taken to me a few places. But I will share a story. This past Tuesday, we went and seen our buddy Andy Andrews. Now, in the square of Gettysburg, he has a shop called, I believe, Ghost City Tours. Correct, Jim?
Yep. Yeah.
So we wanted, touch base with him for the first time being in his shop and looking at what he's got in there. So as soon as we get inside the shop, he goes, Mike, I need you to go into this room. Now, as you walk into the shop, and there's a room to the right. So I walk into the room, and I just had, for those that aren't familiar, it's called the Spirit Talker. I know most apps are garbage, but this one works like an obulus, and it's been very interesting, and I've shared it with Jim and other people. So I just went in there to get a feel of the room before I even turned the Spirit Talker on. And in this room, there was a organ, there was a piano, and then there was this doll. And this doll, I can't even explain what it looked like, but it was in a case. And
a small doll. I mean, less than probably 10 inches.
Right.
Small doll.
And it said, do not open. And it had a crucifix over the cover.
So right away you opened it.
No. For those that don't know me, I probably should let you know that I have been a paranormal investigator for 14 years.
Yes.
And wherever I go, whoever I'm with, we always do things with the best intentions and the utmost respect for spirit wherever we go. And
that's all of us.
Right. Cisco also. Anyways, so I got sensed that there was a male soldier and a Union soldier in the room. And once again, I don't claim to have any type of abilities other than being a sensitive, and we're all sensitives at different degrees.
Agreed.
But then I sensed something that wasn't very nice in the room, and I think it had to do with the attachment of the doll. So anybody that's in the Gettysburg area, go please visit our buddy Andy at the Go City Tours, and you can go in the room and you can see what this doll looks like. So to make a long story short, as I'm in the room, I sense things, and then I turn on the spirit talker, and I'm starting to get words that make sense in the room. And then I go out and tell Andy and Jim what's going on. And then we decide that we're going to go back in the room. And I'm going to let Jim tell you what happens next when him and I eventually go in the room, and then we have other people join us.
So you were there too, Jim?
Yeah. I was actually sitting on a bench in the building, but not in, just outside the room. Okay. So I told Mike, he says, Jim, check this out. So I said, well, so I just walk in the room, and it's like, holy crap, what the hell is this energy? And so I walk around. There's another room in back of this room, and it's like break room. I get nothing back there. So I go back into this first room, and boy, you can just feel it. Very powerful. Mm-hmm. So I said, let me go out to my car. I just happen to have a recorder, and I've got one of those little bells. It works like the EMF, and it bings and all.
Only paranormal people. I just happen to have a recorder and some other stuff.
Yeah, and you always have some junk in your car. So I go out and get it and come on back in. And so I sit on the bench, and I tell Mike, I said, Mike, put this recorder up on the stand near the stall. So he does, and then we set up this little bell. It's extemporaneous, but you can adjust the sensitivity on it. But in other words, you can actually
it's palpable.
Ghost Stop, I think, makes it. It's something rather new, but we've had some really neat results with it. So anyhow, so I'm sitting on this piano bench. Mike's in the room, and we have the recorder on. And so we start asking questions. And in no time flat, the bell's binging. It's binging twice. And it turns out we decipher there's 2 soldiers in the room.
Okay.
And then through more questioning and answering and responding, we find out that one of the soldiers has crossed and one of the soldiers has not. And about this time, there's a couple that's come to Gettysburg from New York, and they're with their children, and they happen to start walking in the room too. And right away, the male goes, what's that energy? And then
wow.
We're all talking. So
palpable, yeah.
So in the flux of all this, I finally tell Mike, I said, Mike, cut off the mic. We go back, turn it on, and here 10 seconds into the recording, there's a male voice, and it says very clearly, I want you.
So when I asked the question, I said, please talk in this phone box. And I said, could you please say something? And as Jim said, even though there was outside noise in the room, clearly a male voice saying, I want you. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't get creeped out on many things.
Yeah.
But I'm still not sure.
It's the way it's being said. Too.
Yeah. I'm still not sure the intentions, if there was any at all. But yeah, it was amazing.
Wow.
So
well, yeah, and then you got to think of that. This is where your intuition and your filters and all those things. Like I agree with everything. Carte blanche across the board. I agree with everything they're saying. But here's the thing: it's not that we don't have abilities. We have abilities. Just some of our abilities are more exercised than others, and meant to be that way. Because I think we're all supposed to fit together like a puzzle. We're all supposed to use all our filters in the ways we use them and then discern from that. So it's also not what it said, but how it was said, the inflection of it, the way, it was spoken. Because again, that could mean anything. Right away, if it's a negative energy and you're feeling that, and it says something like that, like, I want you.
And this is broad daylight. The lights of the room. I mean, there's no darkness, and we're just so. Anyhow, then we since we have the recorder, we get this, and so about that time, the couple from New York, they're there, and he's going like, "What about this energy?"
He felt it.
So we proceed to ask a series of questions about these two soldiers, like, are you Confederate? Are you Union? Various questions, and the bell is just like answering. To one ding, two dings, if we have. And so at this one point, finally I actually said, there's an energy in back of me. I said, is that you in back of me? One of the soldiers. And bang, yeah, it is. And I said, are you touching me in the back? And bang, yes, he is. And then I said, I look around, and the top of the piano in back of me has a thin mirror. It's about 6 inches height, and it runs the length of the mirror. And I said, are you coming to me with the mirror? Bing, yes. And then the guy from New York's looking at me, goes, oh my God, take a look around. And from the angle he's looking, there's a handprint on the mirror in back of me. You can see it.
Wow.
And so we're like, and we say, is that your handprint? Bing, yes.
Yes.
And so we continue to ask a series of questions. And then the guy goes, take another. He goes, there's another handprint there. And sure enough, in a matter of just a few minutes, a second handprint had appeared below the first one. And then we said, is that the other soldier? Bing, yes, it is. So now both of the soldiers are coming through the mirror to me. So we wound up, it was about 40 minutes or so in this room talking with them. And then we agreed, we told the one soldier we'll come back sometime. And when they close shop for the night, we're going to go in that room, and we're going to do with the table, and we're going to cross the one soldier that wants to. The one's crossed,
right?
But the other wants to be crossed, and so.
But that one's come.
Yeah.
Just like we've been saying, folks, this has been a pattern. Now, I always, when I bring in my friends like this, I know they're friends of the show, and most of my listeners already know them as well as their own family, because we come back every year, a couple times throughout the year, and try to catch up with everything, because there's so much going on in Waynesboro. I'm just telling you, everybody thinks it's Gettysburg, and there is, and there's stuff everywhere. Antietam here, I'm right here next to the Battle of Monmouth, for Pete's sake. We just went through it today. So it's all around you, but there are special places, I believe, that have this calling, and it's a gathering, and it's a pulling, and it's I don't know how you want to put it. It's like we can't get it out of our system. All of us have felt it. I don't know what happened, Jim. It happened so fast with you, with a group of people, kind of getting into that. But there's a special place, and we've talked about it many times, is Hoover House, where a lot that we've seen over the past couple of years, I would say going on at least 4, right, Jim, where everybody, the spirits seem to be coming over to help others who are stuck, and helping the living as well, and helping the ones that are stuck to cross over, and how the living how to deal with, whatever their situation may be. There's a calling for the dead and for the living.
Well,
and we're seeing it more.
The young lady was on earlier with this Dana. She's over the Hoover House a number of times, and she's already acquired a table, or let's just say the table's acquired her.
Exactly.
And brought it into the house. And the one night, Jenny and Bob were there before me, and had a session with her table. And the identity of the table revealed itself. And anyhow, then they're talking to it. So they had to leave, Jenny and Bob. But in the meantime, they had already cleared with the spirit of the table that he would work with me that night. So we wound up having a really nice session with a lot going on with Dana's table. So we have, a lot of people that have come to the Hoover House have wound up acquiring their own tables, and it
spreads. It spreads.
Yeah, it's spreading.
But it's I get so excited when I talk about it, because it's not just a light, it's not just an energy or frequency. It is the spirits. And what I wanted to answer here is, Renice is asking, why don't the angels help them cross? Honey, I think it's a mixture. I think they all. I think it's a mixture. It's all a mixture of
the angels assist us.
Yes, exactly.
In most of the crossings, I'm not all, but in the majority, there's a group. We call them ministering angels.
Yep.
And I always see them presented as three separate entities, and one of them seems to be spearheading. And the significance of three is obviously the Trinity. Mm-hmm. And they typically will come forward to the individual wanting to cross, and they'll allay their fears. And one of the things I always admonish to the person is to grip the individual by the wrist, and they'll feel their energies and they'll feel their goodness, and that will allay their fears of whatever they're seeing. Mm-hmm. And then normally I do ask them to project to me what they're visualizing. So if there's something
so you can help.
Or dark, but they'll then start taking steps toward the light with these ministering angels, and they'll do a good portion. So we do have prayers in the name of Jesus Christ that we do this work, and the ministering angels are a very key portion of this.
Right. And I have a theory that goes along with that, as Jim is describing. I agree with everything you just said. And I think that Mike will as well. It's as individual as the situation you're in at the time. So if you're in a basement and you've got 14 ghosts, just say, you might in one felt swoop cross 5 or 6, because all they need is a little tap into the higher vibration. Okay. So if you're asking, why don't you get a lot of angels? You do. They're in the background. All of this light is coming together. You're not seeing them up front, because up front is who that individual ghost needs the most and can identify with the most. So what do I mean by that? If you've got a ghost that, say, in that same basement that needed a little extra help, now you focus on that. What do they need? Maybe they need to be reminded of what love feels like, because they were stuck in this, this trap of their own vibration, and they're not even going to see the higher vibrational ethereal beings. They're in this whole lower vibrational, earthly, tethered spot of their own making and their own keeping. And you have to kind of lift their heads up a little bit so you can see the light before you hit them with it. So again, you don't want to walk into, how many people have been in a room, a dark room, and somebody just walks in and flicks on the light? It hurts at first. Your eyes are like this. You shy away from it. So you don't want to do that to a ghost either. You want to ease in, maybe a little candlelight with a little love, and a little vibration on top of it. And then they can kind of get their attention, because you guys, I guess you would probably agree with that assessment, right? But how many times have you been in a situation, in an investigation, where there was an earthbound ghost, a little bit of a lower vibration, not a negative, but just, down on itself? We can say anything, grief, depression, whatever it may be, that there's another ghost that's crossed, just like Jim and Mike has said here, that has crossed over to come over to help that ghost, a loved one, whatever. They can't even see them, because they're vibrating at a different vibration, a different level. What do you guys have to say about that?
Well, one word of caution, I generally, when I'm speaking to the energy attempting to cross as well, is I always tell them not to look back or where they've been, because all that's back there is regret, fear, anxiety, whatever was holding them back. It's back there. And if they keep looking back, I can feel their anxiety and their caution.
So true.
Stuff. So I tell them.
So true.
Keep diverting your attention to where you see the light brighter. Mm-hmm. And
walk towards that warmth, towards that light, towards that love. Look at that little girl we crossed that night, Mike. Oh my gosh, that was a night. That little girl. And I mean, it's just this, because we're dealing with a ghost, Mike, that not only is she a youth, okay, she's very young, so you've got to think, where's her mindset? She was accused of, I think she was watching her little brother, Jim, help me here, I can't quite remember. And something happened on the stairs. I think she was responsible for watching the little brother. Little brother fell down the stairs, died. Right. The mom had some kind of a mental incapacity somehow was going on there, and she blamed the little girl and drowned her. This little girl was ignored by the parents, pretty much like that Victorianish time where the nanny took care of the kids, and they only showed up when they were bathed and dressed and all pretty, and then back in the room again with the nanny kind of thing, teaching and all. So this little girl really didn't have a lot of love connection. It took a lot to get her. We had to name the neighbor's dog or something, I think, that she had played with and that enjoyed, and the sunshine. And once she felt the sunshine, she turned her face and saw the light. So sometimes you got to trick them into love.
Now, do you see Dana just made a comment?
Okay.
We were just talking about, we were all on the patio with the Hoover house on the for the 4th. And she was explaining this to it, that she oftentimes gets the spirits in her sleep state.
Yep,
and
there you go.
Able to interact with them there. No, that's
because you're closer. Choice. You're closer to the, and that's working for her. That's what I meant by your muscle. You're flexing, like exercise, like doing sit-ups. So in her case, and I love that, Dana, this is how it works for her. They're able to connect to her. So she might have, what we don't see or what we don't need to know, a spirit guide or an ethereal being or somebody else walking them into her dream state, because at that point in time, she's best able to help them. That's just the way it works for them. It's perfect.
I'm real excited to have Mike in the area, because
me too. I'm popping with it.
I tell you, if there's energies that want to connect with us in this realm, and if we're together, they are not shy about it.
It's amazing. And I'm just saying, that's the way it is, though, guys. You have these people, and they struggle and they struggle and they struggle. Maybe they need to rethink of how they're going about it. But then again, we really can't take credit for it either, because basically what we gave up a long time ago. We're just like vessels. So we go where we go what interests us. We're looking at a house, and all of a sudden, boom, there's somebody. Oh, wow, there's somebody in the corner who needs a little help, little this, whatever. I mean, we've sat in places and knew that we had to sing to raise the vibration, because it was so dark, and you sing and you feel all of that going away, especially if you do something. I can't even remember what I sang that one time we were in the basement. I think it was Amazing Grace. I always try to pick something that's both sides. If we're in the Civil War spot, that's a good thing to do, because you can't assume they're always Civil War. You have to feel the energies, like you felt there was those two different soldiers. Did you guys get the feeling that the one that had crossed over had come to help this one?
Good question.
Yeah.
No, personally, I'm not sure. It's a good possibility that maybe they were stationed together, and maybe they knew each other, and maybe that's why the other one was, hanging back and possibly trying to help cross over their brother.
Right, because we kind of had that in the basement. I don't want to say too much about the situation but the one that was left over. So when we were in the basement, we crossed many of them. Then one hung back, and I got that he didn't want to talk to me. He was more connected to Mike. So, and Mike's was Navy, I was Army, and this guy just for some reason really. And I said, that's whatever it takes. You see, there's no ego when you're trying to help spirit. It's not, he got to talk to, and I didn't know. It's just like being in the military or anything else. If you're support, you're just as important. It's who the ghost or the entity or whatever you're dealing with is connecting with and is making progress. And then any time during that investigation, that person might have to step back and finish up, because that's their purpose. And that's the best way to look at the way spirit guides are and spirits, because they do the same thing. So we need to stop getting hung up so much on who came to help. That was the right energy for that moment, for that ghost. It's as individual as the people in the room, the living, and it's as the ghost. It's all, you can't put it all in a file cabinet. You know what I mean? So this guy might have come to cross this person over. It could have been like Mike said, they knew each other, they fought, whatever. Or it could be, to get even deeper, it could be a soul where one soul recognizes another soul from another life. When then you really start getting into the colors of the rainbow. You know what I mean? Because we don't know. We don't have the whole picture.
I've got one of our funniest table
I'm so
experiences.
jealous I'm not there. I'm
was
so
that same
jealous.
aspect. This was right after the bash a couple years ago.
Okay.
And two of the ladies who do so much work for the bash for Pam and Steve are Stephanie out of West Virginia and Lori out of Florida. And they come up and they'll be there for the bash again. And anyhow, it was the Sunday as the bash ended. We were all exhausted. And they said, for whatever, can we do a table tipping session? I said, sure, I'm up to it. So we went up on the second floor and we had our dear friend Holly with us. Mike,
God bless her. God bless Holly. All good energy to you, Holly.
Oh, she's amazing.
Send all that light. Send light towards Holly, everybody.
And
God bless her.
I think Shauna
was there. Her granddaughter was there, and Chloe. And then we had, of course, Stephanie and Lori were all there. So we're at the table, and it was a brand new table. We hadn't really used this table before, but we knew it was connected with a British soldier from like the 1870s. We had his canteen, and somehow, I don't know which came before, the canteen or the table, but we had them. And so as we're connecting, oh my gosh, this table is lunging in a very erotic fashion to Stephanie.
Uh-oh.
I mean, you didn't need to have any imagination. You knew what this table was
trying to do.
And here's Stephanie going, again, the table's name is Zag. That was the song. And she's going, Zag, stop that, Zag. And it's like Vincent starts and would back off and then would make another lunge at her.
And probably laughing on the other side while he was doing it.
As it turned out.
Because I feel like it was funny and not a mean.
Yeah, no. As it turned out, Zag recognized Stephanie as his love interest from a previous life.
Wow, see?
And he was ecstatic.
Just thrilled.
He was not wanting to waste any time.
Man,
so
isn't that something?
That was one of our X-rated table tapping sessions. We still talk about it because it was
so funny.
It was so crazy. But I mean,
that's
you didn't need your imagination. You knew what this table was attempting to do.
There's so many layers. It could be anything. That's why when somebody goes in and says, they walk in, we've all seen it. They walk into the room. Oh, there's the bank. Oh, so this is, Gladys who passed from scarlet fever in 1820 because we know Gladys maybe passed. We just jumped to all these conclusions. Now we're calling, this guy, Bruce, who passed in God knows what down the street. And this is who you're talking to, and you're calling him, so we can't jump to conclusions. We have to get it. So when you have people that are open now, Jim, since I've known Jim, you've come wide open with it. And Mike, ever since I've known you, and the way you approach things, when you did like the Facebook, where's Mike, and you had lots of different, from flashlights and, the touch things that light up and everything. We always get some kind of, product from going to look at something. You might not always get to cross them. You might not be there for that. You're just kind of going through and just seeing what's what, using equipment and trying it out and things like that. But man, when we all get together, it's like we think it's our idea. We always think it's our idea. We're going to go to this house, or you guys are going to go to this field or whatever. But it's really, you've got to broaden your thinking. It's the spirit guides on the other side that have been working on you for weeks. And I've got stories that can tell you how that goes down. And you think you're, and then you get there and you get these results because they've been setting it up on the other side. They know this individual is trapped or whatever. And you would ask them, why don't they do it for all of them? Well, maybe they do. And you just don't hear of all of it. I can't tell you the rules, who gets picked, who doesn't, who gets help and who doesn't. I think it's when they're ready on their journey, just like us, but when you go with that kind of intent and there's no ego, nobody's trying to one up anybody. Nobody's, I remember my son said about Mike that he took out the phone. The quick story to this is the bash was closing down. It was real late. I mean, between 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, somewhere along those lines. And everybody was leaving, and there was a couple people down the hall and around the corner that were jibber jabbering, and it carries there at the Wyndham, right? So it comes around, but we're way down at the end of the hall, and somebody said, "I need you to check this hall because something's going on." And I said, right away, I knew it was the mirrors. bang, 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 bing, bang, zoom, the way they had the mirrors set up there. But we went down to the end, and I was doing the dowsing rods, and I was asking questions. I said, my son said, I'm taking out my phone to record. So he starts recording. The first time the sucker pulls out his phone, he gets one of the best EVPs I ever heard. It's two little girls, you can tell, and I'm doing the back and forth, and I still have it tonight. And it said, this is what I mean about the inflection. I said, do you feel stuck here? Do you need help? And I hear the energy behind me, which I've already felt with my filters and my, whatever you want to call it, ability, whatever that may be. Right here, I felt a young girl energy. And then I felt something else here, but I couldn't quite tell what it was over in this area, just a little further off. And in the doggone EVP, you hear the answer, 2 words, no and no, but they were both said by different voices and different inflection and different distance from the mic, which was nuts. And it went, no. And you could tell she was thinking about it. No. And the other one went, no. It was real. And we just ran down the whole first person we bumped into his mic. And we're like, and he said, you know what? Mike was the only one who took the time to listen. He showed me his app. He showed me some other stuff. He told me what was, good about it, what to look at, how to separate it, voices coming down the hall, because you could tell the difference. All this other stuff. This has always been a group of people, and everybody that hangs out there, similar. You know what I mean? As far as their intent and how they go about things. And I think this is why, because it really takes this kind of heart to go about things like this. If you want to do more than just get recordings of somebody rapping on a wall, if you want to go further and you really want to understand what's going on, you really need to go at it this way. What do you guys think about that? I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Go for it.
Well, exactly. I tell people, if you're going to investigate, you don't need all the fancy equipment. Is it nice to have some equipment so you can document things? Absolutely, because that's what we're in it for. We're in it for not only to see what's on the other side, but we're there, and I'm still learning the helping and the crossing aspect. But I do always ask wherever I'm at, does anyone need help? And then if I can't do it, hopefully I'm with Jim or you, Cisco, or someone that has a better knowledge and ability. But it's really simple. There's not a lot of rules in investigating. I tell people, always have the best intent, always have the utmost respect for spirit. If you can do those 2 things, and if you can talk to spirit like we're talking to each other right now, your chances of getting communication, your chances of getting something you can document is going to be much greater than you're just shouting out and demanding things, because that's never going to work. And you never have to provoke. 14 years of investigating, never had to provoke. What's the old saying? You get more with honey than you will vinegar.
So true. Right? I agree. 100%. And I think they can feel you. Look, we know when people come into a room. We know when people are. Do you ever get that feeling that company's coming or somebody's going to make a phone call and it's them, on the phone rings. So that kind of thing. I believe that that's very strong too when you're earthbound spirit. Not all of them have that ability, because man, if you're in that dark cage, some of them, the behind the water heater ghosts, you know what I'm talking about, the ones that are in the crawl space, for Pete's sakes, they just want a dark spot where they can just go dormant, or however you want to put it, to whatever they decide to come out and do whatever they're going to do. And maybe they don't. I mean, we've all met ones that were stuck in dark places for a very, very long time. Nobody even knew that they were there. So again, when you have families that move into houses and they go, well, we were here and we didn't see anything. So obviously all the stories you heard about the house before was a lie. No, that doesn't, dear, that's not the way it works, because the energy of the living affects the dead as well. And they might have just moved on to the next thing or whatever. So that you can never debunk a story that way, because every living person is as different as every dead person. And that's just, once you realize that, and you realize, like Mike said, something very important there, in my opinion, is talk to them just like we're talking here. Me personally, a ghost will just go, look, she's not going to shut the hell up. She's not leaving. I know she's not. So I better start listening. She's gonna.
I've always really enjoyed any investigation with Mike, because I know he brings a professionalism about it. I know he brings his experience into it, so I know things will be done right. And most importantly is what he's said several times is the respect for spirit. So, it's an open invitation. If the energies want to connect with us, I think they see us and they feel comfortable and they open up to us. And over the years, we've had much varied experiences, but I don't know that we ever have not picked up on something. I mean, I've had very little at Antietam is so different from Gettysburg. Now here Gettysburg was,
so is Fredericksburg.
Yeah.
This is totally different, dude. I don't understand it. It's one of those questions. And before we forget, I want to point out to Scott, if you guys could go over what the table tipping is again and stuff like that. I just always take it for granted people have heard it before, so we'll have to touch on that. But go ahead, please.
Yeah. So anyhow, Antietam has always been, and I've had some very gifted psychics with me and all that. And by and large, when I've gone to Antietam, I haven't got much. Here it is, the bloodiest single day of the war, just a horror show, and yet it's peaceful. And we've been pretty much all over, and very seldom. I even only get an EVP. And the one day, though, Mike and I go there, and we were with my sister Jenny and Bob, and here we're at Bloody Lane. And we go down into the lane, and we're sitting on some steps there, and Mike's got his flashlights, and he's got a couple little pieces, and I've got the Phasma box. And I sit on the steps, and then I'll let you go on with it there, Mike. You remember that?
I just remember that we had sensed, I believe, a brother and sister that came through, and they came through in the Phasma box.
Caleb was his name. I remember
Caleb
that.
was his name. And I just remember that once we got talking and trying to figure out who was there with us, and then we got the communication from Caleb and his sister. I don't remember if they were connected with each other in the afterlife. I think they were. I don't remember the whole story because...
From what I remember, I think her brother had been killed at Antietam. Caleb had been killed. They told us they were obviously North Carolina. They were from the Chapel Hill area, and he actually gave us the unit he was with, Carolina. And I think his name was Caleb Williams, if I remember correctly. And we were able to find such a soldier that with that name that particular North Carolina unit.
Wow.
And he had been killed there, and his sister had come up after the war to try to get his body. Oh. And they talked. They had a defined Southern accent as they're talking through the box to us, and it was probably a good 20 minutes or so.
Did it seem like you guys said you weren't sure if they were together in the afterlife or whether he had crossed, or did you know whether they were crossed and come back to because they were connected?
At that time, I don't know that I had advanced to the point that I was even doing crossing. So from what I doubt if we even asked him that, because that was sort of early on. I mean, I think this was even before the table tipping and stuff.
Yes.
Mike, no, this is a riot. Mike was down here at that time helping us with our pharmacy inventories. We had a bunch of jobs for that week. So he'd come down for the week, was helping us, and we just hit that on the way back. But one of our clients, this is a great story.
Bowden is saying hi.
Hi.
Bowden's saying hi to you.
Oh, hey, buddy.
Hello, Sir Brian.
And
happy 4th, babe.
This client had a pharmacy, like typical outpatient pharmacy, and it was in one of the hospitals in Washington D.C., in a very ritzy area of Washington D.C., and it had been acquired by Johns Hopkins. It was Sibley Hospital, and they had built an outpatient clinic area there, and their pharmacy was in it. And Mike and I are there, and both my sister and another lady with her come forward, and they said, "We can't work in this aisle, this one bin with with the medications. She said, there's an intense energy in there, and we're both getting splitting headaches, and it was affecting them physically.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, Mike and I are next to this aisle, and it is throwing those boxes of syringes. We had a pile, and suddenly the boxes are like being thrown 5 or 6 feet up against the wall. And so we go in the room, we feel the energy. It's the bay next door. And so we just sit there and we're talking to the spirit saying, please, we have to do this. We're going to be in here. We're going to be out of here. We're going to leave you alone. Please just let us get this done. And we were able to do that. But I mean, there was a lot going on. I think we even had a K2 we had brought that was lighting up. Long story short, that particular pharmacy, the people who owned it, they had a head pharmacist in there, came down with a cancer. They had another head pharmacist came down with a neuromuscular disease and had to leave. They run a totally respectable pharmacy operations. And what happened was they had a technician there stealing narcotics. And it got, so they were embroiled in this mess. They had never had anything like that. And ultimately, they couldn't sell the damn store. They had to wind up just closing it up and leaving.
Wow.
So financially, it was a disaster. These things happened to the staff. And Mike and I witnessed physical events. Mm-hmm. This is broad daylight. We're doing this inventory, and we're seeing stuff thrown. You could feel the energies.
So mad. Like, what are you doing in my spot? Like, anger.
So I never got an identity on this energy, so I don't know what it was related to. But I mean, we both felt it, witnessed it, and I can see what happened with those connected with it. So it definitely affected the financial health of this business organization.
Right. And it will do that. I've seen many places like that. That happened to Steve Stockton. That actually happened to Steve Stockton. And it was so strong. The connection between us was so strong. Just like your friend, was it Dana? Was saying in your sleep. Dana, I was getting visions of him, of Steve Stockton, swirling like he was in a big cartoon sink or something, swirling around the drain. Like he was, whoa, like that, you know? And I'm like, what the heck is this? And I would get little things throughout, you know, different days, all packed in within 2 weeks. I would get all these little things. Finally, you know, I get him on the phone and I'd talk to him. And every time I spoke to him, I don't know how to describe it. He sounded further away to my ear. He sounded like he was further and further away each phone call. Like, what the heck is going on? And he's not big for telling everybody, but he's told this story on the show multiple times, so I'll tell it. So he's at this place, much like this. He's at, I think it was for a big grocery store chain. You'd all know the name. So this is where all the office people would sit. So it wasn't so much the cubicles, but it was desks all over the place, you know, that kind of thing. And then you'd have another room of desks and people doing things and phone calls. It was one of those kind of things. And he said that every week, at least one time, the ambulance have to be called for people to work there. And he's like going off all the different diseases and all the different things. And they thought they had something in the air and the vents. I mean, it was really a big deal. The carpeting, they've gone through asbestos, you know, they couldn't figure out what it was. And Steve has abilities and he doesn't always trust them. And I'm like, what do you feel? And he says, well, I was in the bathroom. And while I'm in the men's room, you know, it was one that had multiple, like 4 or 5 stalls in it. He'd be in there and he'd hear the door open, the water turn on, the door open next to him or down a couple, and he'd come out and there would be nobody there. Then another time he was there and he saw the door open and he sees pant legs, you know, underneath the thing walking by. And it's the kind of pants you would have worn with the cuff, the polyester with the cuff, like a dress suit, but a cuff. So 60s, 70s, maybe bell bottomy. And the shoes he would describe were that era. And he'd hear the door, again, nobody there, all this kind of stuff. And then he said, one time, Cisco, I'm at the desk and I'd see this dark mass go down the hall. And I'm like, okay, well, there we have it. Let's start there. And the phone calls and I couldn't get him. And I would get these dreams and they get more intense. He's circling faster. And I'm like, okay, that's it. So I pick up the phone, I call him and he'll tell you this. I'm like, look, I'm done. And he's going through, at this time he was in Portland, so they were starting to have the riots. This is going back to then, the beginning. And the bus trip was getting longer, and he was getting sicker, and he's got to walk now 2 miles because they can't go through town. I mean, it was crazy, the stuff that was happening. Finally, he gets home and he's stuck. He can't leave because of the riot stuff. The buses won't come, and he can't get there. So he did a sick day. And I said, you're never going back. Let me tell you what it is. They gave it to me. You're thinking about leaving, because I didn't even know. I mean, I'm piecing this together. I said, you're thinking about leaving, but you want to go back for one thing. And I tell you what the thing is. It's a little small wood carved something. And I'm told that if you take that home, it's going with you. Do not go back. He left every damn thing there, never went back to the place. And he started getting better and better every day, every day, every day. He got further and further away from it. And then he finally left, and he got really good. So it was one of those. I tell you that story to try to let you know that it's probably something in there that caused all that. And I would say, I don't know if you can go back or get in touch with people there, but it's something is holding back that person that's so agitated. But it was making people sick.
Well, it just to show though. I mean, there's always, oftentimes there is another explanation. I remember a case number of years ago where it was a factory that'd been there 50, 60 years, and they had the high ceiling fans, and something happened. They just got old. They all crapping out at the same time. So the company had to go and replace all these fans for the workers, and they did. And it was no time after that, all of a sudden, the workers are all coming around with stories they're seeing ghosts.
Oh, wow.
I mean, like, not every single person, but a number of them are seeing ghosts. They're seeing representations.
Like a fear cage or something,
right.
like
and
the
this
EMFs.
had never happened before. No, they had never had this. And so they're talking and say, well, what's going on? We, 50 some years we've been here, never had this. And suddenly, and they said, what has changed? And the only thing they could figure was they put in these new fans, So they brought in some engineers, and they went up and they were checking them. And evidently the fans were out of sync. In other words, I guess somehow they were different vibrational
created
things.
A vibrate, like a fear cage almost.
And so they adjusted the fans so they were on the same thing.
Wow.
The ghosts went away.
Because it was creating some kind.
Yeah, sometimes there really is a physical presentation that we're not aware of.
This is where investigation. Yeah, this is where investigation hits the road. This is where the rubber hits the road, because that's exactly what you want to do.
People were crazy, but they were obviously picking up on something, and for whatever reason, it in their minds, it created
that's
these
the
illusions.
biggest part. And it's perfect that you brought that up, because so many people talk about investigation. I have a house, and these people came in and they made me answer questions. Yeah. Because anybody serious is going to first deduce what Jim and Mike will tell you too. And I've had multiple people on here that have been in this for decades that will tell you we have to do it, because if there's a divorce going on, if there's drug use going on, if there's mental illness going on, if there's, you name the gauntlet. Anything can be. It could be asbestos in the arsenic in the wallpaper, for the love of Pete. It could be 10,000 different things. You almost have to be a chemist and a psychiatrist and a therapist and all kinds of other things. It's a lot more than just having an EMF meter or a pendulum or whatever. And when we talk about these stories, we just kind of assume that about us, that we're going to put protection down. We are going to, some of us fast before an investigation. Most of us will tell you we do not, if we know we're investigating, we don't drink beer. We don't do drugs. We don't do any of these things. This is a spiritual thing that you are embarking upon. It's not just a Friday night. It's if we're going and we get together, we've already pre-assumed that the spirit guides know why we're here. The first time I met Mike, he was asking me, he goes, which one, where you go? I said, I don't know yet. They haven't told me where I'm going. I don't know, because it's so weird, but by gosh, don't we get there? I mean, there was a time, Mike, I believe you were there. I believe it was the same night we were in the cellar where again, this is to show you that people back off and everybody does what they do, and we just work like like everybody gets a solo, I guess, like there's a drum solo, there's a lead guitar, and you never know who's going to get called up to stage, right? So we're in a thing, we're working on it. Mike and I are standing there and we're going at it because we kind of always go at it like soldiers, because we're talking to soldiers in this particular situation. We knew we were. And I'm saying, and Mike is feeling that they're not leaving because they're not going to leave until their others leave and they're properly relieved. They're still fighting the battle. So we're standing there. We get the feeling, okay, there's something they're not working. And then here comes Dave. We had to get Dave because they wanted Dave. And Dave walked out into the middle of that field and he properly relieved them. He said, I'll stand guard. You guys go take a rest. And then we could, help a couple of people.
Right. You were a Navy
remember?
Man.
Right.
Yeah. Do you remember that, guys? That was incredible.
Yes. They wanted to speak to somebody in the Army. I was Navy, so I had no jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And they weren't having it. They knew they could. It was almost like, I think at one point in time I looked at Jim and Jim was working whatever you had on your tablet. I'm not sure what the name was. You were getting words. Yeah. And I'm leaning into Jim and I said to them, because that's when we were picking up that they needed to be properly relieved. And there was such a cacophony of paranormal activity going on in that field. You had just about everything from residual to, quartz, stone, tape memory. You had actual intelligent hauntings that were sticking with the ones that were kind of stuck in a loop. You had all of it.
Well, while we're on that, I'll put in a plug for a good friend. We all know him, Terry Thomas.
I love him. Yes, and his whole family.
He has, for anybody interested, if you're in and around Gettysburg, he has the Haunted Trails, and basically, his house was there from the 1830s, so it was a witness home for the Battle of Gettysburg. There was some light cavalry action in the area, and some of the ground was utilized as Army hospital, and he's found various artifacts there. And anyhow, for anybody interested, they can go what's called the Haunted Trails of Gettysburg, and they not only you can see in the basement where we're talking about our experiences, you have access to that, but you can actually camp overnight if you want on the actual grounds, and it's some woods there. And this was, nowadays you can't even ghost hunt during the day on the fields of Gettysburg.
That's
if they
nuts.
catch you with equipment, you're liable to have it confiscated and have fines, even
it's
jail.
A good fine too. Yeah, and that's such a. They were making such headway on places like Devil's Den and with a rock. I really feel like that rock, and like you go into places like. What is it? Is it the Devil's Kitchen? That one spot that's carved out in Devil's Den where you can go in, and they thought, man, this is a great spot to be in, but they got trapped. Yeah. So you've got that expulsion of energy in there bouncing off that rock. And it's just, this is where so many things have happened, guys, that we know about, just top of my head, the reenactors who were sitting on the rock out there, and they turned around and they met somebody that they thought was another reenactor and gave them the 2 cartridges that were tested out. And that's also where the tobacco one happened, something similar. People are lost and somebody will show up and point the way and then they're gone, all that stuff around Devil's Den there. So it's really incredible. But Terry and his family are wonderful people, and they've really done a good thing.
It's a very reasonable fee. Some
and that's right in Gettysburg, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're about 5 miles, 6 miles just northeast of Gettysburg. But like I said, there was cavalry action there because Custer was messing around with Stewart on that sort of northeast of the battle. But it's a very reasonable fee and a lot of activity. They even have a tree now. I know it sounds crazy. Wow. They got a tree that has an energy about it on like the one side. And people have been coming there to get their energies renewed. They bring various trinkets and
like a healing tree.
like a healing tree.
Yeah. Well,
And
we all know that they
felt
do.
that energy.
Nothing's better than hugging a tree. I mean, that tree hugger stuff, count me in, because when you
did hug it.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, and we've all done it too. I mean, look at that time with the tree, the last time we were at the bash, the tree that called us, had the spider, and everybody around it.
Cisco came out and had an amazing cleansing, and Bob still talks about that. He
does. He
did. He felt a significant difference. And
he talks about the time. Go ahead.
Oh, Jenny and Bob, God,
I love them so much.
You want to just being touched in with this table tipping like they have.
Oh, explain that now, because we got people in the chat that don't understand. You guys explain that, and go at it right down to where you get it.
I'll touch base on the principles, but I'd like Mike to give his perspective, because he comes at some sort of like from a novice point of view. But table tipping was just, it was a spiritual tool they used turn of the century. When you're in that time frame, you look at World War I and you look at the Spanish flu, and like from what they say, a quarter of the world died from those conflicts. And so people wanted to know about their loved ones. If, they just wanted reassurance that their loved ones were around, or, not in hell and all that. And so there was a lot of spiritualism in that period, and people wanted this comfort. And this is one of the ways they sought. And in that time, there were some legitimate individuals who had spiritual gifts, and there were a lot of charlatans who were just trying to make a buck. And eventually, the charlatans really tainted, the field. But there were legitimate people with spiritual gifts. And one of the tools they used was called table tipping. And essentially, the table has an energy about it. And normally, those energies will identify themselves to us by name. We'll know their life's history. And it's our impression, none of this is gospel, but it's our impression that their responsibility in their realm in the hereafter is to work spiritually to try to tie families back together, or loved ones, or just to be able to provide communication along those lines.
I believe this too, guys. I believe this too. And why a table, I can't tell you, but most tables are wood, and it
doesn't have to be a table.
No.
We've had a lectern that works. We have a spinning wheel that has an energy about it and works. Yeah. But essentially, the process is we will work through the spirit of the table to find the individual. And if it's got the spirit in the table, normally if it's a higher end, it can connect with a loved one from there. And we actually now have several tables that can go get the person. We can ask them if they can contact so-and-so, and they'll tell us yes or no. And if they say yes, the table starts this process of tipping back and forth for a while. And then when it finally stops, normally that person is there. And we go on to have communication, and people, they are able to ask questions, and the table will slide, move, dance. Sometimes it elevates. But it's not anything we have control of. It's all mediated by spirit. Mm-hmm.
I believe that these spirits, what you said was very important. I would like to go back real quick over that, is that for some reason, the spirits, like we said in the beginning of the show, it seems at this time in the whole world, in this universe, whatever, are trying to help others cross over. And at the same time, it's multi-level. So you're not just helping that spirit cross over, whoever these spirits are, for whatever reason they're doing it, maybe to elevate themselves, maybe it's some kind of thing that they have to do, like a community service kind of thing, to elevate themselves up a vibration, or undo something. Who knows? That's beyond our understanding. We see it every once in a while. We'll see glimpses of it, but we don't get the whole picture, So again, it'll get attached to it. But I think this is just a way that they have of connecting so they can help. Others don't need that and come through, like we said earlier. They'll come through like the two soldiers, maybe. I think that he's probably trying to help because it's not often either he's trying to come to help this other soldier or this person that's crossed over. Usually you'll find is connected to the property and just coming back to visit because they used to live there or have some kind of connection to it, or the people that live there. So that kind of thing can happen. So many different things. Go ahead.
We regard it as a spiritual gift. And so we really don't accept any monies for it, because then we believe it slides into what we call priestcraft. So, we may do an investigation and pay him, and then may have a fee for the investigation. On Sure White, we're doing table tipping. So those that want to participate can. But we don't take any money for it because we don't feel it's proper. And we feel that maybe if we violate that,
the intent changes.
It does. And we try to keep ourselves worthy of their trust. And the one thing we ask of Spirit is we ask them to respect the guests we bring to the table, just as we will respect them. And very much it depends on who's at the table, because you can have someone, it's no long in being skeptic, that's fine. But some people are just totally closed off to the possibility.
They're negative energy because, and this is just my understanding at the time. I could change 10 minutes from now. But my understanding at the time is the people in the room, that energy combines just like it does where you go anywhere. Like think about when you walk into a wedding and everybody's together. Everybody in there might not be getting along or even know each other, but they're all there for a good reason and a good intent. Then you've got
analogy.
But then you got people that gather for other reasons, and you're going to feel that energy. Or you're watching a movie that's not so great, and everybody in there is going through that same thing. Now take it and do quite the opposite. You can feel the difference. It's palpable. That's the same thing as everybody in the room. So you could have 3 skeptics sitting on the couch and just not believe in what they see. That's fine. But if you've got somebody who's saying something sarcastic or nasty or whatever at every little thing that's happening, now that energy is going out and it's ricocheting off. You're not blocking it because you're not concentrating on that person. The people around the table are concentrating on what's going on at the table. We're not looking over here blocking that. Now, if you brought somebody with you, that was their intent just to block that, it wouldn't affect. So again, it depends on your situation. And again, the major thing I think that's very important here is people will show up. The Hoover is just a base, okay? And it draws people in, living and dead, but in a good way, because most of the bad stuff can't get in. Not the negative stuff hasn't shown up, but it seems to be weakened in its power somehow, where it's not coming off, where is somewhere else it might be fed and have more power and energy, right? But what happens at the Hoover is people go on vacation somewhere. They wind up at the Hoover, have no idea why they're there. And grandma and grandpa or somebody have been sitting there waiting for 2 weeks because they're talking to Jim. They're talking, and now Mike's going to get it too, whether you like it or not. They're going to be talking to Mike, and they talk to Pam, and they're going, well, we got somebody showing up here. I'm going to go clean that room or whatever, because we know we got people coming, that kind of stuff. And then they show up and they think they're there to do whatever, but they find out that, grandpa had a message and arranged the whole thing from months ago.
Mike's been we've had, since he's come
get bombarded
back in the area, we've had, a lot. I don't think we've not had a successful session yet.
There you go.
I don't think so either. Just from my perspective, 3 years ago, the last time, 2022, I was here for the Bash, the Hoover House. I had never witnessed, had no idea what table tipping is or what it does. So I said, look, anywhere where I go or what I do, I'm an open-minded skeptic, and I just want to sit back and watch and see what happens. Not that I didn't believe in table tipping or what they were doing. So I did. I said, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to watch a session, because to the average sane person, quote unquote, you'd say table tipping. You say, no, they've got to be pulling it with strings. They've got to be controlling the table somehow. So I sat back and watched a session, and it was amazing.
Everybody does.
There was no trip wires or anything trickery
Magnets, no
right?
magnets.
Nothing. Okay. And believe me, anybody that knows me, I'm always there with the best intentions, the utmost respect. And when I host events, I would never stage or fake anything. And if anybody I was with staged or faked anything,
We'd have
first
to
of
tell.
all, I would not associate with them anymore. And then if
Right.
it was an event I was co-hosting with them, people would get their money back, and I'd be ashamed. So I want people to understand that. So then I said, let me participate in a table tipping session. I watched one and I was amazed. And I'm telling you, here I am with you can't see the hands are on the table. I'm just saying, there's no way this table is going to move with our fingertips on the table. It's not happening.
There it goes.
Guess what? It was happening. And the people that they would, they'd ask a question, who are you here for? Or do you have a message for someone? And the table goes to that person. And I'm not going to get into it, but I've had my mom who's passed away, my granddad, which is my dad's dad, and my grandma and grandpa Summerfield in the last month that have come through. So let me tell you, please, if you get a chance, witness a table tipping session.
Yeah.
Just watch it, sit back, soak it in, and then get into the session, which I think we should lead into the Hoover House.
Absolutely. I've got here to talk about the Gettysburg Bash. I've got some stuff on that as well. And Mike, your channel. Jim, are you still doing your Keystone Paranormal channel?
No, Dave's working a bunch of jobs now, and
God bless him. He's just going.
Our youngest granddaughter, unfortunately.
Well, the next chapter.
Has a serious seizure disorder.
God bless her.
So they really got their hands full.
Yeah.
Right now. And then
so that's it.
Haley,
next chapter.
Haley, we reach out to her. She's dealt with a number of health situations herself.
God bless her. Prayers all around.
Yeah, they had her on some medication that really sort of took away her intuition and her abilities, but she's gaining that back.
She's gaining it back. Okay,
she
good.
She got off this particular medication.
Tell her just keep exercising it. Little things like even guessing the card as you turn it and stuff like that. Just keep it going because you're exercising that. It's just like when you have a neurological. You have to, you exercise the brain cells you want to keep, kind of thing, so that its neurons keep connecting. And make that connection.
Said, he's got this thing that the four of us will be back together on.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I can't wait because I'm telling you, I think you just have to look at it like a journey because, I sit here at night and I go to sleep thinking about all the things I want to do when I get to, Waynesboro. And there's so many irons in the fire. It's the history. It's, my God, I want to join the metal detecting. I want to dig up stuff and donate it to the museum, and the place where you find, that kind of thing. The living history of what's going on in Waynesboro. I mean, I see it blown up like crazy. I watch the Waynesboro Main Street Live. When they pop up, they drop about 2 videos a day, or at least, several a week, of what's going on down there with the food carts and the festivals and the downtown businesses and everything else. I see it just go because, again, you're going to get a lot of that coming over from Gettysburg too. You want to investigate? We've got your investigations here. We've got this beautiful field. It's just an opportunity. I see so many wonderful things. I was going to get, I got a PA system and all this other stuff because I'm a blues player. And I'm thinking, gosh, do I want to move this? And I'm thinking, how many things we could do with a PA? We could get the kids, the high school drama involved. Let's do some stories about downtown Waynesboro. There's so many stories to tell. And you've got Antietam and you've got, Harper Valley PTA over there.
That's some of the hope that's Mike down here now.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait.
At hosting an investigation.
Yeah, I want to do live paranormal shows. Here we go. We're sitting in the field around the fire tonight, telling ghost stories. What do you see in the background? Everybody included.
And he's a lot younger and a lot more vibrant than me.
We can still. Mike and I will climb the rocks. We'll get a can and some string, and we'll let you know everything that's going on. We'll climb. We'll blaze the trail for you, baby. But yeah, I can't wait because here's the thing. I know it's going to be amazing because that's my intent. I want to spend the rest of my, whatever I've got left, helping these people, helping these kids. You know me. I'll tell the guys, I'm not going in there unless you're gonna let me cross them, because I can't stand. Now again, here's the thing. I want to reiterate what I mean by that is I at least want to leave them with the information that they have the free will to break themselves out themselves. Yeah. You can't force anything, because it might not be their time or their journey or anything else. Sometimes you have to get their loved ones to come over and work with them, but you leave them with that connection so they can hear them. You don't want to just leave them in the shadows in the dark and go, oh, well, wasn't that fun? Again, that's just me, but there's so much out there. And one of the big things out there is the bash. So we want to hear the bash is coming up. I've got let me see if I screen shared this for you guys. I've got some pictures. We got quite a few people coming this year.
Yeah. What is she? 140 vendors? 140, tables, vendors.
Can you guys see that? Is that showing up? You?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got John Zaffis, Gary, Dave Schrader, Shane Pittman. Yeah, we've got and the
opening ceremony starts what? It's 12 to 6, and that's Friday or Saturday.
Saturday, I believe they do.
Okay, Saturday. I see it now. Yes. I see it now. July 26th.
What is it? Is it $25?
$20, but it's for all weekend.
All weekend, not per
that's
day.
Great. Oh, so, wow. That gets you all in all of this. So you got Mike Gonzalez.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That one ticket's good.
Wow,
they give you a little tag you carry, and that's good for the whole weekend.
Oh, yeah. You got Dave Schrader, John Zaffis. We've got mediums, we've got Lawrence Milano, we've got Mondo Docs, all this different stuff. And now this is being held at the Eisenhower, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it's at the Eisenhower. So if you come, last year was the first year at the Eisenhower. It had been at the Wyndham. So if you haven't been there for a couple years, it's in Gettysburg, but it's a larger area. The Eisenhower.
Oh, it is starting Friday. Okay.
Yep.
I wanted to be sure. It
starts absolutely. We'll have a
There's
good
Ernie.
crowd Friday.
Here's our friend Ernie.
Ernie, yeah.
Santiago is very cool.
Yes, Vince Killen and Jody
and I'll tell you, there's even way more. There's just too many to list them all. Yes.
I think that's Twisted Paranormal with the lots.
Yeah,
I believe. And then there's John Zaffis on again Friday. So this is the evening. Blue Buddha.
We've got a couple of events with the celebrities. They'll have like a masquerade ball, and then they have a karaoke contest and various
all that
things.
Fun stuff.
Normally we're exhausted. We're old. We're exhausted.
We use up everything on investigations and stuff.
We will, Jenny, my sister, and Bob. We will have
love them so much.
A couple of our tables there, and we have a number of people. We do some private sessions. Again, these aren't anything to paid for, but we'll do some sessions to help people out. That pretty much taps us out.
I think, and then just trying to investigate, and then just the excitement and the adrenaline of meeting all your friends and being in the room with everybody. The energy is like insane. Here's Johnny.
I'll tell you who's going to be there. Now, I don't know if she's on the bill. Serenity Jenny. If anybody's ever met her, I mean, she's pure white light. She's an amazing woman.
There you go.
Like I said, there's just some really gifted
I like him.
People there.
He's one of my favorite wraith chasers right here.
Yeah, and none of the celebrities are paid for coming.
Nope.
These people showing up on their own.
They volunteer.
Yep, they volunteered, and the funds that are raised go to PA Wounded Warriors. They go to children with cancer. We support John Buckman's working with the kids. That's Batman. He's there with his Batmobile. And then we're raising one of our fellow paranormal investigators is battling cancer, and the expenses of that. So they're raising funds for him. I'll let, obviously I'll let Pam and Steve.
Hey, there's Mike.
Yep, Mike King.
Mike's great. Mike did a table tipping session with us last year.
How was it?
He did. He was amazed. He had He
I
had
bet.
his doubts too.
And to
He
have
was
a
like,
police officer that has been in the law enforcement for, oh gosh, I want to say what, 38 years, maybe more.
Goes to Shepherdstown.
And he goes to
Yep.
Shepherdstown, 2 seasons, I think, at least maybe 3. And absolutely, to have him in the room, I would have loved to see that, because he's going to, use deductive reasoning and everything else, try to figure this out. And then to watch people get to the point where they just accept it is my favorite, because they're like, okay, nobody could know that,
Yeah, no, that
and
was
it's amazing.
And he's been over the house a couple times since, and
Nice.
yeah, no,
good for him.
Yeah, so they have a
I love that
knowledge of it. Yeah,
I love that, and I wanted to make sure that I get Mike's in here, because that's one of the reasons I was asking. Because here's the thing, when I get out there, we could put these together and bring in Mike's and mine, and then have another one that's just for Waynesboro paranormal, whatever you want to, you know what I mean? Like, we're going to do this live. We're going to bring people in on, sessions where everybody's okay with it and that kind of thing, from going down trails or doing investigation or just sitting around the campfire on the front porch telling ghost stories. It's going to be wonderful. And I think that the camaraderie there is just really the energy that brings it as well. But it's also the history. So give us a little on that. And Mike, tell us about your YouTube channel here, honey. What do you got going on?
Okay. Before I get into the YouTube channel, just real quickly, a quick synopsis of the Gettysburg Bash. For those that don't know, Pamela and Steve Barry, they work 365 days a year to put this amazing event together. So shout out for Pam and Steve.
Hey, Pam and Steve.
Yeah, when you see Pam and Steve, please, go up and give them a quick high
And they've
five.
been doing this. This is year what, 5?
Is it 6?
It might be 6. You might be right, Mike.
Okay, I think it might be.
But they're amazing.
Yes.
The hours, a shout out to Sir Brian for putting that information up. It's noon to 6, I believe, Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday is noon to 3 or noon to 4. And besides the different celebrities there, you can do a lot of networking. There's going to be a lot of booths, a lot of teams that you can just go to their booth and network with. They have guest speakers. That's all included in the $20. You can go listen to the guest speakers. There's just so much going on. We talked about
all this stuff going afterwards. DJs. They've got outside activities, vendors, food trucks. They've got, I believe, I don't know where you go, but I would go to the Facebook, Hoover House, Gettysburg Bash pages. Any questions, of course, the Barrys, and they usually have somebody that's got rooms or something like that, maybe at a lower rate or something. So check on that. You can call the Eisenhower Hotel, where I know that the rooms are. Several people already have theirs.
I may be wrong. I think the Eisenhower is filled. Believe it or not,
that fast.
It doesn't take long.
It was sold out within 2 months of it being announced last year.
So look at your local Airbnb.
There are other places in the area.
Yeah, and I know also next to the Hoover House, there's a little hotel. It's it's probably a 2-star, whatever. I haven't been in a while, but it's real reasonable. And it's a room, it's a shower. You're gonna have plenty of stuff to do. And Waynesboro is what, like 25 minutes, I think, from. Yeah. So there's stuff, look at the Airbnbs around, get with your group or whatever. And it's always fun to do that anyway. But try to hang around the hotel, because you're missing stuff if you're not there.
And what people do nowadays, since Gettysburg, you can't investigate on it.
Right.
People have their cell phones and they walk the battlefield. So if they feel they take pictures with their phones.
Right.
You know what I mean?
There's a lot of equipment in that phone.
And then people
apps and things like that.
Phones. So the cell phone, I guess, is the only way that people are able to investigate Gettysburg anymore. But they do, and they still get a lot of evidence.
But around the town too. I mean, the whole town runs on paranormal and history. The whole downtown of whatever. But this is lovely, Mike, and you're dropping some from your investigations. You have a lot of videos on here, so go over there. He talks a lot about the equipment. He explains. He's a very good teacher, Mike. And if you're looking to just get into it, or whether you're a seasoned paranormal investigator, there's always something to learn from others. So I highly recommend going to his YouTube channel, liking him on Facebook, because he's always putting good information out there. Mike, anything else you want to say about that, sweetheart?
Well, appreciate Sir Brian's shout out for also listing it. I just want people to understand, I wish I had fancy editing equipment. I wish I could properly edit stuff. Everything that I do is just basically either live or recorded, and it's raw. And I'll never say anything that I do is paranormal. As any good investigator, trying to debunk it, whether it's scientifically, logically, whatever way we can try to debunk. And then I'll just say, hey, look, we've tried everything. I don't know what's going on. And I just post it and let people make their own observation, what they think it is. It's only worth a second of your time to subscribe. There's no charge. And if you like the content, like it. If you like to share it, share it. I've been putting more and more on my YouTube channel this year. And please comment. I wish more people would comment. You know, good, bad, indifferent.
Right.
Please be respectful, but comment.
Yeah.
It's important.
And we're all learning from each other.
Exactly. And as you said, if it ever gets to a point where I think I know it all, then I'm going to retire, because
that'd be it.
Don't know it all. And I'll never know it all. None of us will ever.
No, every time we dig, we got more questions. Just when you think, if you think that you know it all. Here's a quick story about a Gettysburg ghost. So there's this gentleman, and Jim's heard this, and I'm going to paraphrase it. I'm doing it off the top of my head. But there was a gentleman who, he was just retired, and, he wanted to do some things. So they took the car tour where you go through Gettysburg. And at one point in time, he felt compelled to get out of the car, and he goes up to the split rail fence, and he's just looking at the field, and he's, having this, and he feels such a draw to this field. And he actually, I forget at one point in time if he went back or he had a recorder or something, maybe a phone, but he's recording, and he gets back, "Hello, Sergeant." This is what he hears. And he felt such a familiar thing. Well, he was so intrigued, and he's telling his wife and everything. And again, he's not into this. He doesn't know why he's drawn to that field. He goes back several times, and he gets a couple of these EVPs that are saying stuff like, "Hello, Sergeant," or "How have you been, Sergeant?" and calling him Sergeant. He has no idea what's going on. He has this, afterwards, he has this, like, I don't know whether you'd call it let's just say an episode, where he feels like he's getting hit, with like bullets. Like, I got hit several times in the chest. He could feel where he's getting hit, and it was just dramatic for this guy. And it's happening a couple times. He goes to the dentist. He has a separate issue. Goes to the dentist. He opens up a magazine, and it happens to have a Civil War article in it. And here is this sketch of a sergeant that got killed, it turns out, on that field in Gettysburg during the Gettysburg battle. And it was a sergeant, and it looks just like him, to the point where he thinks he's looking at him. He can't figure out who put a picture of him in this magazine. He starts reading. It gets a little creepy. This guy got hit and was wounded and died by that field, in the same place as he was feeling like he was getting hit. So he's going through, he gets a hold of some good people. He got lucky. He had a friend who had some abilities, and with her and her connections, they, I guess they regressed him or something. And it turned out that this guy was reincarnated, more than likely from this sergeant, and the people that ghosts on the field recognized his soul. So when you understand that there's multiple stories like that, if you wonder why you're haunted, or why when you go somewhere something recognizes, or a ghost is attracted to you and maybe performing more, for lack of a better term, performing, but showing more energy usage and things like that, it might be they're reacting to you. Like Jim said, the table recognized her, a love interest from a past life.
Yeah.
When you start bringing in all this stuff, anybody that comes in and says, "I'm an expert," in what level of this? Because there's so many levels, and we just have more questions. And I think that's one of the things, because we're really inquisitive about it. But I think we're all past the point of wondering if something else happens on the other side, wondering if there's an afterlife. Because I think we all are at the point where we think something absolutely goes on and continues. Are we not?
This is one of the big focal points I have in my table tipping and connecting with spirit is there's actually quite a bit that they're allowed to tell us from life from the other realms.
But not everything.
So I'm always inquiring, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of commonalities. And a matter of fact, another big supporter of the Bash, who will be without this year because he passed late last year, was Eric. And so Eric Julian. And Eric passed rather suddenly. And we've since had sessions with his wife and his daughter. And he has a lot of family and friends from Pittsburgh. So we had, just a couple of weeks ago, we had 20 of them at the Hoover house. And we were all connected with Eric. And he was giving his daughter and his wife messages. He'll be there at the Bash, believe me. But he revealed something to us. This is sort of a new thing. I guess his wife was sensing on this and asking questions. Eric enjoyed eating. You know, he enjoyed that very much. And so somehow was asking about eating from the other side of the realm. And of course, they don't need nourishment like in our sense. There's not, and that's true. Yet, think of it. You live 50, 60, 70 years, you're eating the whole time.
Right.
And you have and so when you cross over, you still have a lot of those desires built in. You know, it's like, man, you know. And so somehow they're able to manifest, I guess, the pleasure or the experience of eating, say, I love steak subs, you know, cheese steak. Yeah. So they're able to manifest something like that and be
they just think it.
Enjoy
they think it.
And so what he had been doing, foods that he didn't like when he was here, he's sampling them there, and he was relating his experience.
Oh, how cool.
So I said, well, doesn't that just ring of veracity? Like, you know,
yeah.
Again, I wouldn't put my
trying
hand
something different.
But yeah,
but again, that resonates with everything that I've heard from there too.
Yeah.
So when you're getting this from 100 people that don't know each other over a half a century, and they're all saying similar things in different ways from their perspective, you have to put some weight on it. It's quite a possibility. Here's one that Mike's never heard, and I want to tell you this because I feel like for some reason you need to hear this. I'm going to say it. Here's the story. Little girl passes. She's about 4. And she has a near-death experience where she actually died. She was gone. I can't recall how long she was under, on the other side, but she was there a little piece, When she comes back, the story was very similar to the one that was famous where the little boy of the pastor passed. And I forget what it was, like Heaven is Real or one of those things.
Right.
Yes, I can't remember. Similar to that. So she was just an absolute delight. So she passes. When she comes back, she starts telling her doctors, her parents, or everybody that's listening. She went over the other side and she saw things she wants to tell. So when they finally calmed down and listened to this little girl, her experience was such as she knows that she went somewhere. She saw a light in the distance and she got a little scared, but she kind of giggled because she was a nervous laugher, one of those kind of things. So she kind of giggled. And when she giggled, I don't know how she described it, but it turned out to be like light beings that were kind of floating with her. She wasn't alone. She said, I wasn't alone. So she's floating with these light beings, and they said, well, what did they say anything? Did they touch you? They said, no, they kind of carried me with wind, which is interesting for a 4-year-old. And they said, they started talking to me. They were telling me jokes to make me laugh. And they would tell me silly jokes and I would giggle. And every time I giggle, I felt lifted by the wind and the colors would get brighter. And I could hear singing, and the singing would get louder, and they'd tell me another joke, and I'd giggle, and we'd lift again, and more colors, and more music, and all this. So her whole story was about how these ethereal beings, these light beings, carried her to the light where she met other beings that told her she must turn around and go back because her parents needed her. She wanted to stay and they had to fight her because by then she had giggled so much that the colors were so bright. And this is her words. The colors were so bright and the music was so beautiful that she didn't want to leave. So what does that tell you? That lifting of that vibration as she laughed, it lifted her vibration toward that love and light. And they were there to remind her of that. So I would assume that anyone who crosses over would have what they needed at that moment that resonated for that person. What worked for that 4-year-old wouldn't maybe work for a 50-year-old construction worker who's a little, pissed that he's, going on the other side. That needs a whole different set of beings. So what does that story tell you about what we need as either paranormal investigators, spiritual light workers, whatever it may be you're doing in this realm? What would that tell you? Something so simple as laughter lifts you and rises you up to a different vibration. If you're going into an investigation and you just had a fight with your boyfriend and this and that, and you're tired, whatever, and you're all gruffing, all right, let's just do this. What do you think you're going to draw?
Negative energy.
There you go. I mean, let's go around the table and get your thoughts on that. We've got about 15 minutes in, and don't forget, guys, if you want to stay with us, we're going to, at the end of this show, we're going to move from YouTube to just Rumble, and we're going to watch some Gettysburg Ghosts, Gettysburg, the battle that happened, pretty much around this weekend. What are we at now? 163, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So 37-25
years ago. Yeah.
Was 162.
Yeah. So many. And just to see that, I think that's what kills us. Is it hurts our hearts when we think, my God, this person's been here 150 years, 160 years. And, people are just going to go about their life. We walk under witness trees and, people like us can feel that there's something else around us, and it's just such a wonderment to just be in this I hate to use the word investigate, just experiencing all of this in such a way. I'm so grateful to be here. So go ahead. Tell me what you think about all that.
Let me ask you one quick question.
Sure.
There was a gentleman and his wife who lived in New Oxford. And the one time you were down here for the bash, you were having a private session with this guy. I never got to experience it, but he used to have a glass, and and he would connect with famous persons from the other side. And he's written and published several books. Him and his wife moved to the West Coast a number of years ago. Do you remember his name?
Yes. They went to Utah.
Yes.
His name is Barry.
Yeah, Barry was his first name.
Hold on. Strom. Strohm.
That's it.
Oh, it took me a minute. He used to own the antiques place there in Gettysburg. That was a shoe store back in the day.
Absolutely. Okay. Took
me a second.
You had invited me to that session, and unfortunately, I already had an obligation. I think it was
that was something.
Year or so they moved, so I never. But if anybody's interested, he's written several books. These sessions he used to do regularly. And it's an absolute fascinating read. And he's channeled and had sessions with JFK and Patton and just you name it. I mean, it's
several great books. This one is Aliens Among Us. I've got several different ones, but he's got some great stuff. He's on the YouTube channel. So it's under Barry Strom and Connie Strom. Wonderful people.
I got to tell you, as I read that, so much of that just has a ring of truth. You just sort of sense that,
There you go. There's a few rooms left for the bash at the Eisenhower. And I'll tell you, if you can get at the Eisenhower here, thanks, Brian, for this. If you can get there, you want to be where it is. You want to be where it is if you can, or as close to it as possible, because there's stuff afterwards. And again, this goes to wounded warriors and children who are sick, and the Berries have been doing this, and so many volunteers around this, so many people that come in to give you their thoughts, and they're not just there to sell books or or whatever. They're there because they're also very into this, and every different level. If you want to be scared to death, there are people there that are just scary stories like you wouldn't believe. There was one room that you'd all giggle, but I think it was 2 years ago. They had a room with a lot of cursed objects and things like that in it. And I'm just, walking down the hallway, and I'm not, I'm just doing my thing and having a blast, in my energy, and I'm just bebopping around. There is in Wyndham, this was at the Wyndham, there is a ghost in there that likes to grab your butt. And he goosed quite a few people at the bash I was at the last time. But he got Ernie too. It was so funny. But anyway, I'm walking down the hallway, and I turn to go into the room because I'm just saying hi. And I got to the doorway, and I was stopped, like I walked into just a wall. Oh, just a wall of energy. And I went boom. And it was almost like I hit it. And the guy that was running it, I forget who he was, he saw me do it. And I went, whoa, what's in here? And I just stopped, and I backed up, and I looked around and went, okay, I understand. And he says, you're the only person that's done that. I said, no, I can't. I'm sorry, guys. I can't come in here. It's going to cost me too much energy that I'm going to need later to fight this. I said, what the heck is going on here? But again, when you're on, you're on. So there you go. I mean, guys, what do you want to say going around? There's so much there. Our energy is just bouncing off of the walls like ping pong balls right now. I can feel it.
One point, Cisco, before we get into whatever else we're going to get into. 2 things in 14 years that Spirit has shared with me. One of them is time does not matter or exist, and death is not the end. Those are 2 things that, and when I heard those things, especially that death is not the end, I mean, it helps. I would hope it would help people realize when your time is up, don't be afraid.
You're just changing energies. And again, you can go back over anything like, tribal. I can go back to my Native American roots and things that people tried to teach me, and, all these others, like the little elder sayings, like, I don't know, everybody's so hung up on what road they take. We're all going to the same place. And it isn't. And when you say something like that broad brush, you want to understand that within those words you have to always add, and it's up to the individual, because it is going to be, I don't know, specialized. It's going to be honed for your needs. I mean, if you have a couple of things you have to get rid of before you go to the next level, you'll probably have to do that. We've had many people come across, whether it's the table tipping or other things that have come through and says, I'm here. The one in the cellar, for one, the one that choked me, the young lady, I'm sorry, I forget her name, but she was there not to harass or to cause problems or anything else. I honestly believe that's what I got from her. She was there to cross the person who killed her. You see what I'm saying? They were friends, and they had something to work through, and she had enough love and forgiveness in her. She had already gone to the other side. She got so far, and somebody, I'm assuming this part, told her, hey, if you go back and help them, you can go up to a higher level. I'm getting a lot of that lately, past 5 years.
You're absolutely right, Cisco. Sadly, I think there was some kind of romantic interest between the 2 of them, remember? Mm-hmm. And as you said, she's not going to cross until he crosses, and he's saying he's not going to cross.
Right.
So, and what was it, about a month ago, we had an investigation. Jim and I and Kara and a few other people were down in the cellar basement, and once again we encountered her and we encountered him and got the same message that we're talking about. She won't cross until he does, and he doesn't want to cross.
And she's holding on because she has a few more answers than he does, and he's not in the frame of mind to accept those answers. He's still having a little bit of fun, and he's loving the attention as far as coming down and giving them shots. People coming down there. Did somebody go down there and try to play poker or something with cards?
Probably.
I'm hearing something about cards.
They'll pour shots down there and stuff.
Okay. I'm getting whiskey shots of whiskey. Yeah. I'm getting a Jack Daniels. Some guy went down there, and because he's coming through you, Jim. I know it's bouncing off your energy.
Well,
Mike, were you down there recently? Were
you
down there recently?
Were talking, I was just reminded by some energy. I was told by Kara and the other people that night Mike's referring to that we have a set of mirrors. They've been down there, and a lot of stuff comes through there. And it seems at night, like 11:30 at night, the energies change.
They're not facing each other, are they? The mirrors?
I mean, there's some stuff that's not the best, and it starts to come through late. And I was told to take some, quilts or blankets or something.
Cover those mirrors
over the mirrors, and it just.
Can you do me a favor, Jim?
That.
You've got some anointing oil. Put that on the blankets. Put that on the blankets, because here's the thing. I'm gonna give you something. I don't want to scare anybody, but here's the thing. In the past 2 weeks, there's been something going on. There's some kind of resurgence of, the way I can describe it is like a pit of vipers hissing. So I get that from, there's some dark side that's really angry that they're losing a fight. We are in a spiritual battle here, folks. And this is universal. Okay. I'm not just talking about us or anything like that. We're all in it, whether you know it or not. And you're being beat around. So if you've got a lot of equipment breaking down, things around your house, household items, dishwashers, washing machines, labor things that help you labor, cars, all of that kind of stuff. Listen, go around, bless your house. Do it the way you feel is right. I don't care if you go around with the Bible and read whatever feels good for you. If you can add sage, dragon blood incense, if you want to put big chunks of pink Himalayan salt on your windowsills, I want you to do all your windows, everything under your kids' beds, under your beds, all that kind of stuff. And not in fear, in claiming, and this is going to work. You're spreading good energy through your home, and then do your car, and then do where you work if you can. And if you can't do it with sage, do it with words. Words are very powerful. I protect this place with the white golden light, positive only, because here's the thing. They're pissed they're losing, and they're throwing out black magic grenades right now, and it's hitting all these different things, especially light workers. So just hug a tree, do all your things that that you're comfortable doing, and just be mindful that that's what we're walking through right now, because things like this are going on around the world. I know of 3 other places that are very much similar to the Hoover, where people are coming for this kind of healing, both of the living and the dead. And I think this is only going to amplify. And, we need more people that understand that it's a process. It's like if another group had gone in, it might have taken them years to cross that little girl. But it was the right people in the room. Some of them strangers I had never met before, but the energy was perfect. Everybody was supposed to be there, was there.
Forget about that. They put
all the mirrors.
And those mirrors, are they facing each other, Jim?
Pardon?
Are they facing each other, the mirrors? Or they might be across the room, but are they actually facing each other in a way?
Not really. They're stacked.
Do you have any in the house that are doing that? They're facing each other like two in a
hallway? I don't know. There might be some in some of the rooms. Take a walk
and look. It could be a bathroom. It could be a bathroom or a bedroom or something. Just move one a little bit so it echoes the other way. Because what's happening is, again, it's trying to find a way through. Now, it won't win at the Hoover. And it won't win because of the people that are there and the people that come there.
When
has no chance.
We were first investigating, we went to a private residence where they were having issues. Their daughter was having some real severe nightmares and was feeling threatened at night by an entity. And we got in there and we could see the way the mirror looked on her as she's sleeping. She's defenseless and stuff. We wound up simply moving the mirror, and it sort of ended it. But in the meantime, when we were gathering evidence, we set up some of these digital cameras we had that they wanted to eclipse. So you get about 3 or 4 hours, and it's a 180-degree camera. And the picture of it got destroyed. Somebody lost a bunch of junk. I'd loaned them to look, but we actually one time had a picture of one of these mirrors with an arm coming out of it, like up to the elbow.
Wow.
Just like a hand actually coming out of the mirror. You could see the hand and the arm up to about here, and here was the mirror. And so, if you're into any kind of feng shui and all that, you realize the complexity of mirrors. And so I remember that picture. I said, you don't have to tell me anymore.
I'm telling you, man. And you can go back through all different cultures that have something about mirrors. Yes. Victorians covering the mirrors, and different people in different cultures. But here's the thing. Like I said, there is a battle on to stop this. Once you understand one pinpoint of light beats out a whole room full of darkness, or a whole, understand what I mean is true. And, once you know that, it can't get in. So anything positive, singing, dancing, laughing, all of those high vibrational things are right there in your toolbox to pull out immediately and just start, again. And it pushes it away. Just understand that in some cases where you didn't need it before, like we're talking about in this basement thing between the two, it's really going to crescendo, because like I said, he's having fun. It's something with cards. He's playing cards. I think he's running like in his mind, very much like the, in Gettysburg College with the guy with the elevator. He's right. Like, he'll show you every once in a while. It's like he manifests that. Right. Like it was the speakeasy back in the day. They're kind of going through it again. And she's going through it because she thinks he's got to work through something. He's not trying to work through stuff. He's going, I don't want to cross because I don't want to come uppins. Right. When what we got to do is we got to sit him down and explain, it's not what you think. It's, you judge yourself. You're just going to look at what you did and see how the other person felt. And then you're going to see it, that kind of thing. You can get through that. You're a big, tough guy, because you're going to move to the next thing. And then we'll see what you've got left on your journey. Because like you said, Mike, it doesn't end. It doesn't end. And love is eternal. That's the only one I would add to that. Love is the strongest thing. And once you connect into that, it kind of pushes all that away. And that's what I want everybody to remember tonight too. Because if you've got all these, like I said, black magic grenades just hitting and taking out the low end, fruit. And think about it. How do you become an easy target? Well, you're on your way to work. You couldn't find your keys. You broke the heel to your shoe. You get to the car. You need gas. You forgot to get gas. Now you're late for work. There's somebody stuff, and it builds and it builds and it builds. And the next thing you know, you got cracks in your windshield, and bam, something gets in. So just put it out. Remember singing, remember all that stuff that just puts it off, and like turn on the radio, sing a silly song. I use Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog. I can't get through that song without, but that's it. And it sounds silly, but these are the tools that are just as important as the EMF meters, the dowsing rods, which I still have, Jim. I love you so much. And, all of the other things that you might bring to an investigation. I think your discernment, your common sense, your heart, and your intent are the first tools you should put in that toolbox. What do you guys think? Take us out with that.
Go for it, Mike.
Absolutely. Agree 100%. Sometimes spirit is old school and they want dowsing rods. They want pendulums. They want things, and then sometimes they do well with the twist mag flashlights. Sometimes they do well with something that has audio, whether it's a Phasma box, an SB7, SB11. Sometimes I've been like an Obulus. You don't have to spend $300 on an Obulus. Like I said, the Spirit Talker has had amazing results.
Yeah, Mike introduced that to us. That is an amazing.
Yeah, tell us what that is again. Is that an app?
Yeah, Spirit Talker. Okay. It's the best $3.99 or whatever. It wasn't that much that I've ever spent. And basically, it works like an Obulus. What is an Obulus? I believe Spirit uses the energy of you. The energy, as I tell them, it's a box or a phone. And when you turn it on, they're able to, and there's just thousands and thousands of words that are in the Spirit Talker, like a dictionary. Picture a dictionary of thousands of words, and they're able to use their energy, and they pick out and they put a word or words. And it's like any tool you use, you just have to take it with a grain of salt. Does it matter where you're at? The response, does it make sense where you're at? And then a lot of times, like when we were in that room at Andy Andrews' place, right after we played the EVP and it said, "I want you." On the Spirit Talker, it said, "Did you hear me?"
Yeah.
I can't
Wow.
explain that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Wow. And
Yes.
again, I think it's great that you brought that up because I wanted to say that about inflection. Please don't just jump to conclusions when something is said like that, because again, their inflection on the other side, it's almost like they're talking at a higher frequency. So if it come out real low like that, that's, again, how did it come through? Where is it on the decibel, the hertz and all that. But here's the thing. It might have just been saying, I want you to help me in that part to come through.
Sure.
We can't just jump to conclusions. You want me for what? You want me to help you? What do you need? And ask to explain that if they can. They might have just used up all their energy and spent it on the first thing and you don't know. So we can't jump to conclusions. We just have to keep putting it all. And I think an investigation usually takes more than one time. Of course, we're telling you about stories where we sat down and crossed a little girl who was stuck in that place. Actually, she came from another. I think she followed over. She wasn't at that house, but she came in, probably brought in, guided in. But you're going to get stuff like that too. So, Jim, what do you want to say? You got to bring all that to the investigation too, because you don't know what you're walking into.
Yeah, I've just learned, first off, by and large, for most people, spirit is a marvelous energy, and it's very healing. It's very, for me, a lot of times I do spirit avoidance. I think I just get tired and physically, but
right.
Spirit always treats me so good, uplifts me, and makes my tired body feel well again. Mm-hmm. And in numerous ways, it's very kind and it's very loving to me. So I acknowledge it in that sense. So, I get a little, I guess there's a lot of people who want the thrill of a negative spirit or something. Mm-hmm. You don't really want that, and life's complicated enough.
Amen.
So, I quest after the high vibration in light. That's where I'm going to learn life's lessons.
Yep. And they're just be you. You're drawing that because that's the energy you put out, Jim.
Yeah, that's
exactly it.
That just may be me, but at this point in my life, I don't need any more of that drama. I'd much rather know.
And again, you might have to do that, but we know enough to go. We know the people in the room. I'll ask Spirit who has the strength to hold this back, because again, I've got a wonderful friend. I'll just say Peter, and he does a lot of battlefield rescue. And when he goes, he usually takes a trance medium with him, and he's the guider. He does kind of what I do. And the Ghost Whisperers call me what you want. I've been called a lot of things. So, and I don't care. Go ahead. So you're going to get me. So what he does is he actually brings somebody to hold back the negative entities on the battlefield who don't want you to cross them, because that's their energy, that's their energy source. Right. So you're taking that from them, and they want the suffering and the confusion to continue because that's their energy source. And he will tell you more times than not, there's not just a negative, like say human entity. They can be there and often are, because there's mean people too. They just are. And then within that, he's got other not of this world entities in there too. So he'll get grays and he'll get other extraterrestrials and beings he can't quite place, but they're also there from a negative and side. Not saying they all are. There's different in each group, but they're there too, trying to hold back. So it's not just other ghosts or something that you would say is an entity or an ancient or whatever, but they're there too. So you can bring people with you to kind of cocoon them so they can not influence the people that are trying to cross. So you need all these people in your band, folks. You need the background singers, you need the drummers, you need the producers, you need all that stuff. And, you never know what you're going to need. So the best thing to do is just let your ego at the door, ask your spirit guides what you should bring and who you should bring with you, and they'll handle it if you give them the permission to help guide you. We all have free will, and that's how we have to do with the ghosts too. So, gentlemen, this has been lovely. Happy 4th of July. I hope you're celebrating.
And
I'm so red, white, and blue. I'm just, if you cut me,
community,
I would bleed red, white, and blue right now.
It's got a lot of drama, but it's a very interesting group of people, and they really do care for one another. I mean,
Yeah.
I witness it every day. And so,
Yeah, I love them
I
all.
guess just for everybody, just have your mind open to the possibilities, because it's a wonderful ride.
And I just wanted to say hello, D-Rock. Thanks, everybody, for viewing. And thanks, Cisco, for having us on the show.
Oh,
we love
sure.
To miss
and please.
you. And we hope to see you and everyone else at the Bash.
I hope to be there. If we're not there for the Bash, we hope to be there the week after. We're trying to set up some stuff. Of course, we're going like for business and hugs too, to try to get everything, because I want to make that my home. I think I've been being called there since before you guys ever found the house. I told Jim, I wish I should pull up that next time you come on. I'll pull up that little clip where I told Jim, I said, you don't realize this, but this Hoover House thing is going to be pretty big, and it's going to be a beacon of light for many. And look at us now.
Yeah,
look at us now.
It's special.
Yeah, it is wonderful, and I hope to see you guys too.
Thanks to everybody who support us so much. Really can't do it without you.
Right, and if you can't go to the Bash, just share it on Facebook. Let people know that this is a nice, safe place to come with lots of wonderful families and people. I don't know if they do it at the Eisenhower, but a lot of times they brought their dogs. You can find an Airbnb where you can bring your pets if you're going to travel. You can make a whole week of it if you're looking for a place to go. You can stop there, and then you can go in any direction and hit a wonderful city or a wonderful educational place. Gosh, you can go into Washington, D.C. You can go into Maryland, into Baltimore. You can go the other direction, go into Antietam. You can see all kinds of things. So please consider that. And if you can't do it, at least support them with sharing the information and getting the advertisement out there. The advertisement this year has been really good. The marketing is really, it's really done great. So whoever's behind that, tell them I said so. And that comes from a kid of 2 advertisers. So there you go. It holds a little weight there. So nice job.
Stay well until we meet.
I love you guys. I just hug both of your necks.
And guys.
God bless.
I can't tell you how much I prayed for you to get there. I was so glad you're finally there, and I'm coming soon.
All right.
Leave me in a spot at the table. I love y'all.
Yes, Cisco.
Now listen, guys. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hugs all around. All right, now listen. If you are with us on YouTube, we are about to say goodbye, because what I'm going to show you, it's 20 minutes. If you don't want to stay, I understand. That's fine. But we are going to go strictly over to Rumble real quick. It is free. If you're not there, I'm not trying to hide anything behind a paywall. What I'm doing is showing you something they're not going to allow me to show you on YouTube. But to end this beautiful weekend, I have a couple of things for you. On my Rumble channel, there is a 12-hour marathon that I did the other day to start off the weekend. I got the day off. It was raining, and I thought, hey, I'm going to do it. I had a blast. I had my own little barbecue with y'all, and I played in its entirety multiple documentaries on there is one at the very beginning. Now you have to get through all the little spaces because it takes a while to share and things to load and stuff, so it's not perfect. And I tried to edit it, but I didn't have enough room on my computer to edit 12 hours. I actually, dumb me, went through and did all that and then tried to load it. I didn't have enough memory on my disk, so I just let it go. But so there's wasted time there. But anyway, it's there, and there's a wonderful documentary on there that takes you through a whole tour of all the special spots in Philadelphia and in Boston that had to do with the signing of the Declaration of Independence, St. John's Church, where Patrick Henry did Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death, the Liberty Bell, just all kinds of different things and wonderful little tidbits all thrown into this documentary. There's cartoons, there's beautiful music. I played songs in between. I did random ghost stories just for no reason whatsoever and threw them in there. They're terrific. And then some other things too, like movies. I played in its entirety Jaws, because Jersey Shore, it's just 4th of July to me. And I played, what else? Oh, Gettysburg in its entirety. So you got all 4 hours of Gettysburg on there. So if you've never seen the movie, it's there free on Rumble, on my Rumble channel. You can just fast click through and find what you want to watch. But Jaws is on there. Gettysburg is on there. And at the end, we finished it with the wonderful movie done based on the musical 1776, which is a lot of people were bucking on the musical, but it's fun. It's just fun. And it's a great way to learn what they went through to get us the Declaration of Independence on paper and then signed, which actually was declared on the 2nd, signed by two on the 4th, and that was John Hancock and Thompson, who was the secretary of the Congress there. And then it went out and it went all around, and people had to come to sign it and everything else, and it took time, and it was all ready and signed and to go on August 4th. And then it was printed out, the first prints, and handed out to all the colonies, and George Washington got his copy, and to a ragtag militia that he was trying to turn into a well-trained army. They were still at a spot where they needed some extra motivation. They were going through pure hell. And he read the Declaration of Independence to motivate his troops. And guess what? It did. And it should motivate you to this day. And that's me and my patriotic opinion, but there it is. I think it's a very important document. I think the 56 people that signed it and dedicated their lives, their honor, and their sacred honor. I mean, knowing, like Ben Franklin said, if we don't hang together, we most assuredly will hang separately. And look at what they did. And we're still talking about it today. And the Battle of Gettysburg happened on July 2nd to July 4th. Yes, 3 days. Yeah. And over 53,000 souls were lost in a very small little town of probably just under 3,000. In a blink of an eye, got over 158,000 troops converging on their town, and herein lies the battle. It's very well told in Michael Shera's his series of Killer Angels, Gods and Generals, and Last Full Measure of Devotion, I believe, are the 3 novels. And this movie was based on Killer Angels, which is the Battle of Gettysburg. So it's a beautiful movie, horrible in so many ways, but it's a beautiful rendition of his historical event we shouldn't forget. And within that, we've got so many ghost stories that come out of Gettysburg, even though everybody that is a ranger or anything like that they have to tell you there are no ghosts in Gettysburg. But that's like saying Cisco can't talk. She's very shy. So there you go. I found a little 20-minute documentary with our friend Mark Nesbitt in it. It's brand new. I had never seen it before, which is odd. And within it are two of my favorite ghost stories that we've talked about before. I've talked about one of them here with Mark, and then there's another. And an amazing little time travel thing that I'm still scratching my head about. And then a really great couple of accounts of seeing ghosts on the battlefield in Gettysburg. Let's see what you think about it. So again, follow us through over to our Rumble channel. If you're already there, stay put. And I'm sorry, got to get that back up. Stay put, because we're going over and we're going to play a little outro for our YouTube people. And then we are going to meet over on our Rumble. So if you're on Rumble, stay there. I'll be right there. And I love you all. Thank you for being here. Happy 4th. I hope you celebrated. I hope that, that you're breezing through this, that you're liking the things you see. If you're scared, I'm going to tell you, take a deep breath. Everything's going to be fine. I've been in this a long time, and I can tell you, ride the wave, baby. Ride the wave. Everything's going to look just fine. Do you want to see the difference? I'm going to tell you the difference. Helene hit, unfortunately, multiple friends of mine, multiple Americans in North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, Alabama, all around. You know the story. No help. You know who helped? Neighbors. They helped each other. Strangers came from the other side of the country, donated, brought truckloads of supplies. We organized. I was part of all that. I can tell you, I know what happened on the ground. Okay? Texas. Within 15 minutes after the news hit, you have the National Guard. What else do you need? Tell us what you need. You got it. It's a difference. So if those two things, you can see the difference in that, imagine the difference you can't see behind the scenes. I want you to be okay. Just ride it out, breathe through it, and don't panic till Cisco panics. When I come on here and I go, batten down the hatches. Right now, it's all gravy, baby. Okay? All right. See you over there on the Rumbles for a little Gettysburg Ghost to close us out. And do I have a yes? I do. I love you all so much. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you to all my mods. Thank you to all the wonderful people in the chat. Thank you to everybody that's going to listen later. I hope you get something from this. I hope it eases your troubled mind. If you're worried, if you're in grief, if you are wherever you are in your thought process of what happens to us, and does life continue on? I believe it does, folks. I believe it does. But who am I? You gotta figure that one for yourself. Hopefully something in tonight helped ease your mind about that a little bit. Good night, everybody. Happy 4th. Celebrate. There you go. Here we go. Now I might have to cut commercials. You can laugh along with me, but here we go.
June 2008, Gettysburg National Military Park.
We said it's a beautiful night. Let's take one more ride through the park before we retire home.